It's off air and on air live? What?
Hi, everybody. Today is January 8th. Happy New Year. This is episode 7 of the Current Status podcast. I am one of your hosts. I'm Melissa Palmer, and you can find me at VMIS33 on Twitter.
And I am Teresa Miller, looking forward to tonight's episode as well. You can find me on Twitter at 24/7 IT Connect.
And I'm Pumla Schmidt. Happy New Year, everybody, and you can find me on Twitter at Exchange Goddess.
We have a very action-packed show for you tonight. We have a very special guest here. His name is Rawlinson, and you can find him at Punching Clouds on Twitter. And Rawlinson, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm a senior technical architect at VMware. Senior technical architect. That sounded kind of weird. Senior technical marketing architect at VMware. I work on a lot of the software-defined storage technologies that we have. One of them being virtual SAN. The other one, which is the super hot one right now, it's virtual volumes. And amongst other things, I like to joke around, play pranks with people, and work a lot. I'm a workaholic.
Do you manage to find time to grab life by the VVols when you're not working?
That's how I live. That's how I do it. There's no other way.
So I know VVols is a super hot topic, but some people watching this might not be so familiar with it. Can you kind of give us a little quick overview of what they do?
Sure. So,
In English.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see how well I can get this off. So virtual volumes, also known as VVols, it's a new management framework that VMware is now extending onto external arrays, which allows storage arrays and storage customers that have these external arrays to leverage their array-based technologies on an individual or per se granular approach on a per virtual machine per object basis, which overall ends up providing an easier way to manage an infrastructure, so we don't have to worry much about managing an infrastructure and how it's consumed. It's able to deliver rich data services that are available within the array. And now one big thing on this is the fact that an actual storage array is able to now understand what a VMDK is, in the sense. Obviously, virtual volumes, which is what's being introduced, is a derivative of that, right? So it's a way that they can reside natively on an array without us having to have, for example, a VMFS file system in there. And even though that's a whole lot of technical jargon, what it really delivers overall is that you'll have, as a consumer, as an architect, as someone who manages an infrastructure, a much more effective and a much more efficient operational model that will enable our whole strategy with the whole software-defined data center, which is all about abstracting, pooling, automating, and making things in life easier, but still be able to maintain and control and guarantee service levels for your applications. How about that?
Sounds good. So basically what we're doing here is we're looking at our storage and we're just going to abstract it like we did with virtualization. So instead of having an individual, manage LUNs and storage arrays and stuff, I just need to worry about my virtual volumes and put everything in there.
Correct. So if you look at the way we manage an infrastructure today without the virtual volume framework in place, we tend to manage LUNs. Things are always based on a LUN management basis where, we know the limitations that come with LUN sizing and some of the different things, right? Because we may want to have X amount of performance capabilities in terms of IOPS for a particular application. We have limitations on how much we can have because of the logical volume, that LUN, that we always have a definition for. Either we have X number of them or whatnot. And then there's contention between all the objects that reside there because they're all competing for the same stuff, right? With virtual volumes, you now have your volumes or objects, your VM objects that reside on the array natively, and they're able to get what they want, what they need, guaranteed, as no one better than the array system knows how to provide those resources and services for those virtual machines.
So,
wow.
Is that similar to Tintry's VMware storage appliances? I mean, how does...
That is a very good point. Right. So Tintry has an approach to have that sort of VM kind of, everyone comes in first. Like, yes, it's similar to that. Intintri is actually one of the partners who's on one of the development partners of VVols. And you'll see that now when the product is released fairly soon. They're actually one of the main guys in there. Apply that same benefit on everything.
Okay.
What if I want to do like NFS instead of LUNs? Does VVols care what kind of protocol I'm using under the covers?
Absolutely not. So the thing about VVols is that, we're still going to be able to leverage the same existing protocols that are within the industry. The fiber channel, the iSCSI, the fiber channel over Ethernet, the NFS. It's based on the implementation. So the goal is not really to introduce a new proprietary type of protocol medium of communication, but simplify and abstract the complexity that exists with managing storage, with the different components that are out there, and just make it all about the application itself and what it needs to have better performance that are guaranteed through better SLAs and things like that.
More application aware.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in a sense,
that's why we do things, right? It's about the applications. We tend to play around a lot with virtual machines and stuff and all infrastructure, but it's really about the applications, what we're doing this stuff for.
so VVols will be able to understand how a SQL server performs better, and basically will tune itself to make that SQL server run a lot better. Same thing for Exchange or any type of high-performing application server.
Right. So here's one thing about so VVols itself is, the implementation will give you some capabilities that are part of that. One of the things that ties into the performance aspect you mentioned now is the fact that we have this policy model, this policy-driven model, which allows your storage system to expose what capabilities it has, right? So normally we have storage array systems that have a particular configuration for a particular application. In this example, Exchange. So these are normally capabilities that you assign on a per LUN basis, particularly from a performance perspective. Now you'll be able to assign these policies, which is how virtual volumes works, based on a policy-driven model, and then have these volumes, and this policy is attached to the individual volume, so that when you say a performance that it needs to maintain and be sustained and needed for a database, for example, maybe, for example, now the disk on which the database is actually stored, maybe you actually apply a policy that guarantees X amount of performance capacity, whatever the storage subsystem provides, and it will be maintained, and the vSphere will be able to maintain that compliance, and the array is actually, it's able to provide that. And at the same time, instead of having to deal with doing a lot of the heavy lifting through the hypervisor stuff, just about every single heavy operation from a storage perspective is offloaded to the array. So now we don't have to bring stuff up to our VMware stack. We basically offload a lot of the operations directly to the array, so that things are faster and better and more efficient.
Yeah, exactly. I was demoing this left and right at the NetApp booth at VMworld, and like, say for example, you had your gold policy, and that was your all-flash array or whatever, and that's where you would put all your database things. Mm-hmm. As a administrator, your workflows could just say, put my databases in the gold policy, and that's the extent of it. It's really super easy to use and really easy to set up too.
Right.
So then on the back, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Teresa, go ahead.
On the back end, then, are there any storage limits? I mean, because today LUNs
Absolutely.
can be very limiting, right? No limits? It just reads the storage?
So there are some limits.
Okay.
But the limits are not really imposed by, not all the limits are imposed by the software, right? So for example, one of the limits that we'll be able to overcome with virtual volumes, for example, is you may be able to have and accommodate larger capacity without having to do as many LUNs as we would do, right? Because today we have a limit on the number of LUNs that can be presented per host based on the path and all of that stuff. But the reason we do that is because we don't want to have these really large LUNs because of recoverability factors that it would take too long to do it, and there might be some limitations there as well. Now you'll be able to create less number of logical units, which the terminology now from a storage perspective for VVols is a storage container, which is basically a bucket which you just put virtual volumes in and you control that. So we don't want to get in the business of managing virtual volumes. We basically control it through a container. That container is given X capacity, X capabilities on the array. But when it comes to limits, we'll have to now, the limitations will be based on what the array implementation can actually do. For example, you may find that certain implementations may not be able to support a larger number of volumes per array. In that case, VVols is designed to support millions and thousands of components, but an array implementation may not be able to support that. So they may have a limitation in the thousands, like 20,000, 40,000. So when you start calculating how we consume that, you will do it in a way that, how are these volumes, because how do we get to count them? So there are 5 different types of virtual volumes that are assigned to virtual machines depending on what they are. Obviously, there's what we call a config VVol, which is with all the configuration of a virtual machine where those components are located. There's a data VVol, which is basically the VMDKs. There's a mem VVol, which is for snapshots, and we have an other type depending on different implementation, because an object will be created. So how do you get to this limit? The more components, the more components a virtual machine may have, it's a different VVol that's created per, in terms towards that, right? Which is kind of similar to what we have with VirtualSign, where VirtualSign has a component limit, but that's software, that's us. On the array-based stuff with VVols is based on what the array capabilities are. If the implementation and design can really have a really large scale, you can have hundreds of thousands of VVols. So obviously that would be the kind of limitation that exists there, but it may not.
Awesome.
So if I create, let's say I have this, one of the big things about VVols is like VM level granularity. I can do whatever I want to my specific VM. So if I take a snapshot of my VM, does that technically create another VVol, or is that called something else?
Yes. So
okay.
So there's a couple of things, right? So obviously when we're dealing with arrays, snapshots, so there's the concept of doing an array snapshot, which now when you have VVol in place, there'll be 2 things you'll deal with. So there's the VMware VM virtual machine snapshot that we traditionally take when we're patching things. On the array side, we normally take snapshots as a form of a backup and recovery and testing things. Those still exist. When you use the storage provider, storage vendor solution to do snapshots beyond and they're outside of the virtual machine, those are what we call unmanaged snapshots, which when you want to interact with them and work with them, this is obviously not something that you get access from the virtual machine settings, go to the snapshot manager and deal with it. So they still function the same way outside, but they still something at the array level. But whenever you take a snapshot of a virtual machine, it creates another virtual volume for that particular machine. What else?
So one of the big things, so we get our VM level granularity, which is really super cool and makes things to manager, because we're kind of really going to more of a logical thing here. So how does this tie into, VC or automation and orchestration and things like that?
I love that question. You're just setting me up. I love it.
Me never.
So, in reality, VMware talks about the software-defined data center. And we've been able to really introduce that by, if you look at what's been done with compute, we've abstracted, pulled resources into one bigger pool, and serve it up as one. That sort of stuff has been done already for network. Finally, we've done it onto storage, and the automation piece comes in how we consume it, all 3 pillars, in a form of a bucket. So one thing that I started working on last year, and probably may have seen it on Twitter, this thing called Project Magic. So one of the things that I call it Project Magic because some vMotion thing to happen, but it was just funny. But it's not a real project or anything like that. It's just something that we created. And it focuses around the automation of a software-defined data center where the entire process, the entire knowledge of a storage infrastructure is 100% abstracted. That consisted on the fact that through that automation framework, instead of you or any one of us admins or system engineer, instead of being able to say, okay, I want to deploy a virtual machine, let me choose the LUN where I'm going to put it because the X, those are the ones that I have access to, those are the ones that we need. Instead of doing that now, we're able to assign a capability, a service level, a policy. You let that policy, based on what you need, provision the storage. For example, In that integration piece that I did, whenever I choose, and the things that I created for virtual volumes, I was using a Dell array, a NetApp array. And whenever I wanted to have a certain level of dedupe and compression and things, I would create a policy that is exposed based on what the NetApp capabilities were. When you want to deploy something and consume it, you don't go and say, I want to go to the NetApp LUN, I want to go to this LUN. You say, this application needs X service, right? And the service that I would tie into is what I would expose. And the same thing went with the different levels of arrays and capabilities. So what happens is that when you provision, this is going to be interesting here. When you provision the storage, when you make the request for the VM, the system will automatically do that. But the thing is that there was no additional clicking for, let me choose the LUN, that manual risk that exists. So for example, when you also look at, as much as we can have an environment, an operation model dialed in manually, we can still make mistakes because we can choose the wrong LUN by mistake, the wrong click, and things can go in the wrong place, right? This sort of thing sort of eliminates that, eliminates the risk from doing that, because now you're provisioning, because it's automated. All you have to choose is a capability. And if your capability is being offered by your particular array that you support today, and it's VVols, that's where it's going to land automatically. You'll see that your service levels will be guaranteed based on what's defined in the infrastructure. But you no longer have to worry about, I want to go to that LUN, I want to go to this LUN. That goes out the window. That's where the whole thing comes together with policy and the whole pooling and extending that framework beyond just the internal VMware virtual SAN stuff. And now we go to external arrays, NAS, and SANs, different environments.
So clearly, that's the software-defined data center.
Correct.
What you just described there.
Yeah. So I can tell you that now, we've been pushing this software-defined data center for a while. We've been obviously working towards that. I think that now more than ever, we can talk about that and deliver it, because now it becomes something that is consumed and managed entirely based around policies, as long as you have the infrastructure to support that, right? And there's a lot of really good things that come with that.
Well, because as an application owner, who really cares what the back end is, as long as it's running fine? As long as it gives me the performance that I need, I really don't care if it's a Dell array or NetApp or Tintree. I don't care. But as long as my server's running fast and there's no latency.
Because customers have all types of devices. They're not just going to have one. They never have one. It's impossible.
No.
So and they
too many free lunches.
Right. Exactly. Different devices offer different capabilities, and they have a different value, different purpose, and different reasons why they're there. Now, if you start managing them and choosing things in that way, sure, you can do that in a very static format, which is a more of a old school, I would say, way. Now you can just basically, you're able to consume those components and resources in a very dynamic, very service level demanded kind of thing, where there are implementations of virtual volumes that I've seen. I don't want to mention anybody, but they have very specific policies defined around exchange, right? Because they know this kind of application comes onto this platform, because they have a particular best practice on how their solution is managed and configured, and all the benefits they inject for virtualized solutions exchange. Now you don't have to manually do that. You basically say, this workload will be an exchange workload. That's the application. I want a policy for that particular disk that matches that, and that's what you get, and you get all the benefits without having to do all the different heavy work that we normally do.
Yeah, because I remember when I was a VMware administrator, if I needed like a data store to be high performance, I'd have to give it, like cluster 5, data store 1, high perf, and like whatever, cluster 2, data store archive, and it was really a pain to manage. It was horrible.
And as an application owner, I really don't care.
You don't care. You just want your 50 gigs of space. It's going to be really fast.
No, I want 2 terabytes of space.
Sorry.
And I want 100 gigs of RAM and 12 CPUs. And I don't want anything less. And it better run fast.
Right.
So.
And the thing is that you want that to be sustained throughout the life cycle of that application, right?
Yep.
So with the policy framework and virtual volumes, you get that, right? And in the event that you don't get it, right? Because obviously there is that opportunity for that to happen. There's this compliance factor now within vSphere that tells you, I can't correct that. And there are tunings in the things, some of the solutions that it's designed to fix itself, to sort of self-healing. It works towards guaranteeing what you've requested in terms of the policies. A policy is a policy, right? We don't know how that works. But the time when it's not available, when you can't really satisfy the requirement, within the vSphere environment, you'll see the flags as non-compliant, right? And it will invoke some sort of action where you have to make sure that you're getting what you need. But you'll get heads up before the actual user starts suffering the pain point of what's happening. It's awesome.
It is. It's awesome. Grab life by the VVols. It's great.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
I've been playing with it
really
since I don't know how
cool.
long. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you said it's not released yet, is there any
Correct.
word on when that will happen?
Is this,
I don't
is
want
this
to
a
go
big
to jail or
announcement?
anything.
Okay, I don't want you to go to jail.
It will
I don't
be
wanna
in
drop
a
it.
future release of vSphere, right,
Is
Ron?
this the,
Okay.
is this
I'm
the
just
big
gonna-
announcement?
I'm just going to
February
say
2nd?
whenever we release, what? Someone said what? February? I didn't say it.
No. He
But
said
in
he
February,
said
we're going to say
nothing.
something. We're going to say
There's a
something.
so-called big announcement coming up in February. I keep hearing, yeah. What's the
Listen.
deal with that?
Let's make it special. Yes, we're going to say something. We're going to say that I probably got a promotion.
All right.
That's
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble.
And
Rawlinson
I won't
is
give
now
you
in
dates,
charge
but
of
it's coming.
VMware.
yeah, are you
I
the new
won't give you
CEO?
an actual defined date, but it's coming. And in
Okay.
February 2nd, we will announce some things, and certain things will become available on a certain date for everybody.
So, Rawlinson,
Oh, that's
where
awesome.
are you? Is that like a white cement
'cause-
wall behind you or something? Like,
Because
you're not like in
I'm
prison
I'm
or
at my
something, are you?
studio. This is where I come and do my thing. The post.
Because everyone's getting kind of like motion sick from shaky cam right now.
No. Wait, is the shake cam thing working? I mean, it's supposed to. The new iPhone's supposed to have like correct.
Correction.
Yeah, maybe we should
It
let
totally
everybody.
does.
We should probably let our audience know that you're actually live using an iPhone or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a mobile device. You're not using a laptop, so that's why there is a little bit of a shaky cam going on. So
Yeah,
we are
my
truly
bad. I'm not
mobile
drunk
right now.
either. Let them know that I'm not drunk.
He's
No.
not drunk.
But he does have a drink with an
Notorious for
umbrella.
that kind of behavior, you know.
Yeah, he does have a drink
I'm
with
not
umbrella.
nervous,
No.
but I'm a little nervous, but just a little bit.
Where's your umbrella? What'd you do with
What?
the
Yeah,
umbrella?
where's your drink?
Yeah, where's your drink at? The umbrella
It's
drink.
inside. I can go get it.
Yeah, go get it. Come on, let's
Go,
go.
yeah, go get your umbrella drink.
Let me show you what I'm working with.
Yeah. Can we see? Let everybody see your drink.
Let me get my drink. Dave's drink. Give me a wallet. Give me a wallet here. If it tastes a little bit funny, that's how we do it. Sure. That's how we do it.
That's how you roll.
You know that face. I don't know if you know him. Nobody knows him. You know that guy right there. You know Alan? There's William. Tonight was
It's
the
a-
Wrecking Crew's regular annual dinner, so we wouldn't miss this. We do this every year. Every quarter. Whenever we can.
It's like a
This is my
party.
meal.
So what's for dinner?
What are you guys eating?
Ooh.
That looks good.
I'm not kidding. It's delicious.
Oh, there's the purple umbrella.
I can't hear you. I'm going to walk outside again. Boom! I told you. Yeah,
There you go. That's better.
that just happened.
That just happened. You had quite a group videos tonight.
It's pretty wild. They probably put weird stuff in my drink. They tweeted all those photos that you saw. Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Yeah. But hey, it's great though that you're able to join us tonight.
I wanted to. I saw you guys' podcast. I was like, man, I got to get on that thing.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Where else do you see like a podcast with like it's like first of all run by 3 women? I'm like, I want to be the 4th. I got to get in the middle of this.
And you're going to be the only one wearing the dress, right?
I've done it before. Some costumes, the stuff on the internet that you might find. I can't really. I don't know.
So
I'm game.
why is VVols all capital V's? Like, explain the whole, because normally it's lowercase v, and then you have like VM, which is
sometimes you have an lowercase v and an uppercase letter.
I'm really confused by this whole spelling thing. What's the deal with that? Let's set this straight. Tell the world why.
Here's the deal. I tend to be pretty sensitive when it comes to naming. I'm ridiculously anal about this. So VMware is no longer doing, there was a time that everything was lowercase v, but I believe it was that was part of a product line, branded that came together, and I think they started moving away from that, right? Not I think, I know they started moving away from that. So now some of the abbreviations of some of the acronyms will no longer carry that. The only acronym that carries the lowercase v now these days. Now, I'm not going to say the only one because they just released another one, right, which is just totally contradicts what I just said right now. It's vMotion, right? But then other than that, the vRealized suite has the small v. VVols is...
What about vSphere? It's still a little v, right?
Right, but that's old, right? That's part of that.
Old, yeah. Okay, so you're saying everything new is going to be big V's.
It could be v,
Could be.
for the most part, right? So, for example, you can see that, and even though a lot of folks on Twitter, they just do that to upset me. Because I just say stop doing it. I don't know what product you're talking about. They do lowercase v, and it's really capital V, virtual SAN, virtual volume. So I guess that's the new, sort of the new branding because it's not including anything, to be honest with you, other than the fact that I just like to keep it all the same.
It's really confusing.
Just
I'm
go
going to
all
be
big
honest.
VVols. I mean, I think it's a little better if I have really big VVols anyway. So it's
yeah, big VVols are a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you, the first time I looked at all the V's, it almost looked like Volkswagen.
See?
So
it actually does.
Thank you. This is going to go.
So
this is now going to go obviously viral, and everyone's going to call it the Volkswagen. Oh,
grab the Volkswagen.
The Volkswagen volume.
Get a virtual Volkswagen. Yeah.
Hey, but it's totally super engineered though. It runs like a tank. It'll never break.
Right.
There you
Just
go.
like VVols, right?
Absolutely.
Just like VVols.
There you go.
I mean, remember, the VVols is basically allowing the arrays to understand what a virtual machine is. So now everything's on the arrays. So if the array is super powerful, it's a tank, it'll behave and it'll act like a tank.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome. It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
I think
I am too. I can't wait. I've been playing with it. I'm just so excited for it.
Yeah. NetApp has a really good implementation. There's a lot of really cool things that are ported over to the sort of to the vSphere admin. There's two worlds here still, right? There's a portion for the storage admin. There's a portion for the vSphere admin. But the one thing is that now the storage admin and the vSphere admin can at least now this one time talk the same language.
Exactly. That's a really good point.
That's the cool thing. So we don't have to have like mishaps with like wrong handoffs, like what's the UUID, what's the LUN group, what's the whatever. What? Now it's like I need a container, sure. I need a virtual, sure. Where are my virtual volumes? Here. So now the storage guy will be able to tell you, yeah, there's a config VVol, there's this type of VVol. I need to restore that. Sure, I know what that is.
I guess I'm excited to see it because I started using TinTree about a year ago, 2 years ago. So to see this and to implement it with TinTree, I'm excited to see how this is going to go with it.
I just got a TinTree array not too long ago, and it's awesome.
It is. They're pretty cool.
What they do is awesome without VVols, and they are like one of the big VVols like partners. So I can't wait to see like finally once I get my hands on their implementation and what they do, because they do some really cool stuff.
Yes, they do, and it's so easy to set up.
Oh my God!
I've worked with NetApp, easy as well, but TinTree, it's just up and running. So I'm really interested to see how this works with VVol. I'm really, this is going to be really cool stuff, especially since I deal a lot more with applications now.
Yeah.
Just really from the application side, how this could really be more efficient.
I mean, just think about it. Like even the fact that you deal with applications, you know what your application needs. So when you don't have to worry about architecting or having to deal with managing the storage infrastructure to get what you need for your application. If you can basically tell, now you can basically say very, very, I'm using X array, I know what the array can do. Once these policies are exposed, you say, this is the kind of policy I want to apply to this individual object. Because we're not talking the entire virtual machine, because maybe you don't want the high performance on the operating system disk being decayed. Maybe you don't want the high performance on the stale logs that you may have. Maybe you want it where the database is, and you want it where a lot of the read action is happening, and you can selectively put it there, so you was guaranteed you don't misuse it. I mean, there's some really incredible stuff being put forth, like being able to guarantee IOPS. That's insane, right? There's one of the implementations for VVols that I think solid fires. That's solid fires like really kind of like strangle and everything, right? They can guarantee that stuff today. So when they do that with VVols, it's like now you can say I need 100 IOPS, guaranteed at a minimum, with the ability to burst up to X and the ability to kind of go beyond that, guarantee per volume. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I see this as taking that VMware admin and the application admin into almost one job, because I mean I'm pretty fortunate that I have an understanding of virtualization in application, so I can make the environment run really well. I know it, but for a VMware admin, sometimes they don't know how certain applications run, so they're just going to make something very generic. But this
Let's be honest.
This is going to give them the ability.
Admin never knows what the application does.
Yeah. So this is going to give them the ability to really understand the application a little bit more, and
it makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Because now the vSphere admin can serve up what you need. Right?
Yes. They're
So
going to be more in tune to the environment.
Right. They'll be able to satisfy the requirements of an application, even though, don't get me wrong, there's work that needs to be done by the storage admin. There's work that needs to be done by the vSphere admin. But the consumer, the one who ends up using all the resources, the application, things are a lot easier. The reduced risk, the agility on being able to get you what that application needs without having to manually do the process that we normally do is insane, right? That's the real value that the operational efficiencies that are delivered with that.
Yeah. So besides VVols, there's all sorts of other stuff going on in the technology world this week. What's this about Patch Tuesday, like, going away? Agent P? Like, have you heard about that?
I heard some rumblings that Microsoft isn't going to announce it anymore like they usually do. I guess it's going to be to just Premier customers. Something.
So it's not.
Yeah,
it's not going away, right?
But the whole thing of
They're not gonna
Patch Tuesday
email
is
it.
going away because they're only going to, send out the security alerts to their premium support people or something like that.
Yeah, to the important people. The important people, the big bucks. How about that? I just
Everybody has to do patching.
We all love the patching.
And I'm not sure how I feel about this. I think this is kind of, I don't know. I think I do kind of like the notices that they give out, but at the same time, it is sort of annoying to it. But for people that don't have that Premier contract, yeah, you kind of,
Support thing, okay.
Yeah, it kind of makes you go,
I think it's interesting too, because I think the larger customers have the ability to have purchased other tools that might notify them about the patches, yet they're the only ones who are going to get the email notifications.
Exactly.
I think it's the companies that don't have the contracts that need it the most.
Yeah, the small mom and pop shops, the 20-person shop. You're kind of, they're the ones that are running America when you think about it. The majority of businesses.
This is where a company like you guys remember Shavlik?
Yes.
The VMware acquired days ago. And I don't know what we did with it, but that was one of those companies that sort of did this sort of thing, right? Provided a sort of patching service. I'm sure someone else will spin out if that's the case, and be able to provide the SMB, the service at some cost. But that big expense will get amortized somehow somewhere else.
I guess they're just trying a different route.
Or maybe they're trying to get people to go the premium support route.
Yeah.
It feels that way.
Yeah, it does. It's sort of sad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of weird. Does anybody else try to charge for letting you know that there's a patch needed?
HP charges for patches, though, I think.
I think you have to have the support contract to download certain firmware upgrades and things like that. But to let you know that it's there, come on, really?
Yeah, it should be public. That's my opinion. Just put it out there.
Come on, your software broke. Why do I have to pay you for the fix?
Very true. Very true. And I guess there is some big conference this week.
Yes,
In
the
Vegas.
Consumer Electronics Show.
CES? You mean
Yeah.
all the video game stuff comes out?
Yes.
Exactly.
What I'm talking about.
Did you see
Smart
Nice people
TVs.
walking around.
I know there were some nice TVs.
The
out this
curved
week.
monitors. That's like one of the new things,
Hey,
right?
I tried like 2 years ago. I tried to get a curved monitor. I think Dell was working on one. It would like go wrap around your head, like around you.
That would
I
be
was like,
awesome.
I need one of those.
Don't the dentist office have those? No, just kidding. The big
Yoga.
panoramic.
If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
like it.
Like a
The
radiologist.
panoramic. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
No, but if you go to a radiology office, they normally have like at least 5 or 6 in a curve, but no, they're not one monitor, but they have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
They
Joe like
had
a
a
curved
curved-
monitor.
They had a curved phone too, I guess.
Yeah, that
That's
was
so
a big thing.
retarded. I'm sorry. The LG curved phone. I'm gonna say it first. You normally carry your phone in your back pocket. What's gonna happen when you put it the other way and you sit on it?
I have a curved phone.
I mean, I have a curved butt too, but it's not really not the shape. It's just not the same. You know what I mean? When it doesn't match, it's gonna snap.
I can curve my iPhone 5S. I curved it a couple weeks ago. It actually.
You must be working with some serious stuff back there. That
Oh yeah, I showed it to my husband. I'm like.
Yeah, my screen like pops out and gets all curved on me.
Yeah, it actually tilts to the right. Well, I guess my right, or it could be your left.
I get a refund.
Yeah.
I don't know, Apple support.
Oh no, I did on purpose. So it's definitely curved. I wanted to see if I could curve it. It's curved.
You wanted to put a little character into that phone.
Yeah.
I see. I get it.
I curved my 5S. I
get it.
It's been thrown around too. So it's pretty tough phone.
I don't want mine curved.
You don't want to match your butt.
No. I'm actually gonna see, like, let me see what your phone looks like. Dude, you must have a really nice butt. Look at the curve you put on that phone.
Like you meet someone new. Can I see your phone before we go out?
Wow, look at the curve you put on that phone.
Oh, I saw that phone before. I know that curve.
That's my phone. How do you know the curve? It matches me.
I've seen that curve before.
Yeah.
You were over there, weren't you?
Yep.
I know how that curve goes.
Rawlinson, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to let you go back and eat your dinner and drink your drink with the pretty umbrella now. VVols, Grab Life by the VVols.
You know.
Thank you so much.
Umbrella, was it pink or purple?
It was purple. I thought it was purple.
Hey, it was my pleasure being on this. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You need
Tell
some
the guys you
entertainment?
said hi.
Call me. I could go unplug whenever.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey,
Have a great evening.
Have a great evening.
VVols.
Bye.